I've been talking about mouse and keyboard for years. I truly think that WUTUM is the first player to make mouse and keyboard and put it on the map. 17 years old, this player is going to be phenomenal.
I know you guys have been waiting for some Halo action. Finally, we get to see some. We have Elias going up against Foe. And Tim, I know you're happy to see some WUTUM action, especially after plays like that. The mouse and keyboard extraordinaire, starting us off with a triple. And I don't even know how that wasn't an overkill.
A lot of people say, you know, M&K is broken. They shouldn't have any aim assist. Is there anything that you have to say to them?
I'll be honest, I kind of just tune them out. I don't really listen to that because, you know, there's people who say M&K doesn't belong in Halo or whatever, and I just don't think that's true at all. You know, at least not nowadays. I think both inputs are viable now.
There's challenges in the M&K versus the controller realm, be it socially and literally in the game. Is there any message that you have for them in general, the M&K community?
Don't listen to the people who say that M&K doesn't belong in Halo, because that's not true. Keep grinding, doing your thing, and just thank you as well to all the people who support me.
Surrounding a pack of wolves, descending upon him, calling them from the jump.
WUTUM! WUTUM! Popping off at the end game moment, he's got the ice!
The stadium was chanting his name, and rightfully so. If I had a hat, I'd be slinging it in this arena. Unbelievable from WUTUM, and really, he exceeded all expectations.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming today. My name is Clutch from the Clutch Academy and the Breakthrough Podcast. Today we're bringing with us Mr. WUTUM, the M&K warrior, pioneer, the highest level player in the HCS right now for M&K, top 6 at Arlington, and one of the majors, the first ever to do it, and then going into top 8, if I'm not mistaken, at HCS Worlds as well. I mean, he's doing everything under the sun, and I believe he's getting to the next level. So we're ready to see this happen in real time next year. Into the Breach is his team as of last year. We'll see next year, but I'm pretty sure it's the same one. How are you doing, Mr. WUTUM? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, thanks for having me.
So how are you doing outside of gaming? What's it going on? You're Finnish, right? So where exactly are you from right now, or where are you at right now?
I live in Finland, live in the capital of Helsinki. So, you know, doing good, you know, nothing really special, just, you know, taking it chill because it's the off-season, you know. Still been playing a good bit of Halo, you know, just matchmaking.
Awesome. And you're running your Twitch now. I mean, you didn't really do Twitch as often before. As of now, are you really trying to grind the Twitch game right now?
Yeah, you know, it's something that, you know, I hope I'll also, you know, do, you know, when the season starts, you know.
100%.
We'll see, like, how much, but, you know, it's definitely something I'd like to continue doing.
And there's really no other mouse and keyboard player that's at your level. So at least in my opinion. So in the respect of that, I think a lot of mouse and key players are probably going to be looking at you and eyeballing you like, what is he doing differently? Is there anything that I'm missing out on? Is there certain plays that he makes that I would never try because I'm afraid to, or I never thought of that? So you're actually like the Lucid, the Stellar, the legend of, you know, M&K. So a lot of people take you very seriously when it comes to it. I mean, you've only been in Halo for this 1 year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this is my first Halo game. Yeah, I mean, just straight up, like, I've never even tried any other Halo game. Like, not even a little bit.
Got it. So fresh off the rack from Splitgate. So how was that transition from Splitgate to Halo? I know you were like top 2 for a long time. You only got top 2 placings consistently. And now you're getting your top 6, top 8 consistently, which is amazing. I mean, just going from one game to the next is insane. I mean, only a few people done that. Formal's done that. Was there a huge challenge, a huge skill gap, or did you kind of already get it since Splitgate is relatively close to Halo?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty smooth. You know, of course, the games have similar aspects, like, you know, 4v4, like arena shooter. You know, you have power weapons and, you know, things like that. So there's definitely a lot of similar aspects. Also, when they changed to a bandit, the bandit's, you know, pretty similar to the carbine, which is what we had in Splitgate, you know, a single shot, like the MR type weapon.
Okay, so that really helps out then, having that, basically the main primary weapon being in line with what you used to have.
Will go down, and he will find the double kill. WUTUM trying to make the triple happen, but will be taken down, but, you know, the job is finished.
I know you said your first Halo. Did you play with the BR at all, and how did you like that, if you did?
Yeah, I played with the BR for a little bit. Didn't really, you know, get to compete with the BR, but, you know, still played, you know, matchmaking with it. I didn't mind the BR, but I think I do prefer the Bandit, but if it was the BR, still I wouldn't really care that much.
Right. Yeah. Once a champ, always a champ kind of idea, right? You'll make sense of it as soon as you get it.
Yeah.
So, cool. And I'm guessing that kind of goes into like more questions where your ping, and all those things that affect the game. Did the BR feel worse? Because I know in EU you have less games. Sometimes you gotta use VPNs, things of that nature.
Not necessarily. I mean, I think the difference is that if you're having like bad hit drag, the thing is with the BR, it's a burst. So maybe one or two of the shots in the burst, maybe they're blanks, but you still do some damage. It's not gonna be like a full blank. As in with the Bandit, if you get a blank, you do 0 damage with it.
Oh, yeah, that sounds terrible when
Yeah.
you think about it. Yeah, and I understand. I know. I play with Warlord, and Warlord, and a lot of other players they end up talking about how, like, if 150 ping feels terrible. Like it just,
Yeah.
I can't imagine having a BR on 150 ping trying to, get every single hit reg. But it has its pros and its cons. I could see that. But enough of the gaming. We could get more into the specifics of that. But when it came to your career now and the journey that you've had in the EU scene, can you talk about your journey with Into the Breach and the success you've had with your team with Wonderboy, Mighties, Jimbo, and Chick? How's that going?
It was a good year.
Yeah.
I can't really complain about my placements this year. My first year competing this game, 2 top 6s, 2 top 8s, and 1 top 16. Wonderboy's been a great coach, and even before like Into a Breach and like in Splitgate, I always try to learn as much as possible from my teammates, of course. So it's been a good experience.
100%. Is there anything specifically that you feel maybe internally for representing the EU, like that pushes you forward a little bit more? Because I know everybody in the US, they just play, right? We just play the game and whatnot. But you coming into a quote unquote North American game and like taking over the scene quite a bit, is there any like extra passion?
There's only 2, European pro teams. I mean,
Right.
sometimes there's a third one in pools, right? So there's definitely, a lot of, I wouldn't say pressure, but, of course, all the European fans, it's really only 2 teams that they're looking at, really. So, there's that, it's kind of, it's just want to make the region proud, really, I guess.
Gotcha. You have like the whole region on your shoulders, basically.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah, in a way. I'm guessing you get a lot of love mail and love email, not emails, but DMs and things like that, and people coming into the chat, I'm guessing in Twitch, and saying like, man, we love your gameplay. Thank you for, pushing the limits of the EU. Y'all broke records this year. You get a lot of that kind of love, I'm guessing?
Yeah, it's awesome. I really appreciate it, when people, just show their support. It's awesome.
Is there anything specific that were like unforgettable moments? I know there's unforgettable moments that we had that even we got to see with you holding, the keyboard up to the sky when y'all broke the records there at Arlington and whatnot. Is there anything specific that stands out in your head that maybe we didn't see as a team or as an individual that you were like, man, this is an unforgettable moment for me?
Yeah, I would just say the entire event of Arlington was, my first event. We got top 6, kind of. We didn't even have an org back then, we weren't on ITB yet. So, really just making like that crazy run to top 6, even us as a team, we didn't really know what to expect. And it just ended up being just an awesome event, a lot of great moments.
Was there one game in particular that you're like, man, that game was like the best game possible? Like I had the most fun that time, or that was the most scary game that we ended up winning out? Was there one that sits in your head that you remember? Maybe we didn't see it on stream.
Obviously, there's the one on main stage versus Cloud9, after which I held up the keyboard. There's that one, but also after that, we played Proton for top 6. That was our match for top 6, and we ended up reverse sweeping them, and it was crazy because the game 3, we were down around in the oddball, and we were about to lose the last round of oddball, but we make the comeback in the oddball, and we end up reverse sweeping them. So that's definitely an awesome series if you want to go watch it.
WUTUM has done it again. The most slays for his team. Double positive just about once again. He got 7 assists as well. Unbelievable. WUTUM, the rookie, is going to ice up twice in Game 5 in the lower bracket to extend foe's life as history is made. Once again, mouse and keyboard supremacy. strategy as Wutum and Foe move on.
What a series.
Reverse sweeped all the way from basically from the point of death. I think they only need like 20 points.
Yeah, it was something
30%.
crazy.
Yeah, something crazy close to them basically knocking y'all out, and y'all beating them was just amazing. And man, congratulations on that. I'm just hyped thinking about it because I remember the exhilaration from those matches. So yeah, check that one out. Our question for you is like the settings and the adjustments. I know the community doesn't really get any idea of how to play MK. They kind of guesswork a lot and they wonder what's going on. Maybe they see like a poster here and there, or maybe one settings video or something from someone. What are your settings? Can you kind of walk through your MK setup and specific settings you got? You don't need to get super nitty gritty, but maybe like 3 or 4.
I mean, I guess I'll just start off with just peripherals I use, like my mouse and keyboard, like what I actually use. So for my keyboard, I use the Corsair K70 Pro TKL. I actually switched it recently, like 1 or 2 weeks ago, and I'll probably be using this one from now on. I think it's a really good keyboard. And for my mouse, I use the Phenom mouse Ultralight X medium size, and my mouse pad is the Artisan Zero Soft. So I play 1600 DPI and I play 0.5 cents in game on 120 FOV. And the thing with me is that I really rarely change my sensitivity. Pretty much I've been on this sensitivity since I started playing Halo. At one point I lowered a little bit. I went to 0.45 and then I ended up going back to 0.5. But yeah, those are pretty much the most important things about my settings, I would say.
I'm pretty sure a lot of mouse and key players are going to probably look at this and be like, all right, I'm going to try it.
It's kind of about just finding what works for you, because it's really just a personal preference at the end of the day. As I said, I don't really change it often at all. Like even in Splitgate, I didn't really change it often. But yeah, you just gotta, fine tune it until you find what works for you. And then usually once you find something that works for you, I think it's usually best to just stick to that. Even if you're having an off day, I always resist the urge to change my FOV or change my sensitivity. I'm just like, it's probably just an off day, or maybe I'm having just a bad match. So I'll just stick with the sense I've been using, because I know it works,
Right. No, that's smart. A lot of people end up changing it. People say they're tweaking or whatever. Those terms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no, it makes sense. I mean, you're just having a bad game or a bad day, or you're just off a little bit. I mean, if you're used to one thing, why change it so often? I'm guessing it's so precise that if your brain's not connected to your hand to the point where and get used to that specific DPI and all those settings, I mean, it's going to throw you off a little bit. If you've ever had that before, where you've changed it, did you notice an extreme difference from changing it? You're like, this is not it. This is actually because it's your preference that you're so used to now.
Yeah, so I remember actually tweeting about this once. I tweeted out sometimes I'll just switch my FOV. I'll put it 110 or something, just so I remember how good 120 is for me personally. I'll change it every now and then I just end up going back to what I used before.
For tips for MK players, is there anything that you think they individually should focus on? I know people do the board training. They have a board and they shoot the aim bots training, things like that. Is there anything that got you to the next level, or something that just helped you a little bit that maybe they could try out?
The one skill that I really think is just super important, and not just for Halo, I think this goes for just about any FPS game, is crosshair placement. And crosshair placement just makes things a whole lot easier, because you end up being on target instantly, rather than having to adjust with doing crazy flicks and stuff like that. It's just going to make you a lot more consistent if you have good crosshair placement. So that's something I think is really important.
Is there anything, any maybe program or anything specific that somebody should maybe watch or play that could help with that crosshair placement?
So I mean, you can just go into theater and watch back your games, and just try to pay attention as to where you're placing your reticle, trying to make sure that it's that you're not staring at the floor. That's a big problem I see, is that people kind of just stare at the floor, or just somewhere where there's never really going to be an enemy.
Right.
You know, it's just really important that you kind of try to think about where you could get peeked from, and you know, try and make sure that your crosshair's already there before the enemy's even there.
Oh, that makes sense. Would you recommend that? I'm guessing they could look at your Twitch, right? And then just see like, oh, where's Wutum looking like as he's playing, as opposed to, and I get this myself. I'll notice that I'm like looking somewhere random. Like, oh, it's almost
Yeah.
like gross. You're like, oh my God, I shouldn't be looking at this. Like, there's nothing there. Basically, you're saying just be ready almost at all times, because that little split second's the difference. I think that's important. That's great. So please watch his Twitch, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, especially MK players, and subscribe. Nah. So, in your opinion, are there any upcoming M&K players that maybe we don't know about that that you're like, man, I see that guy in matchmaking, he's doing pretty good. I mean, this is kind of like a mini shout out for them as well, whoever they may be. But is there anybody that you see that may jump into the pro scene soon?
There's not that many, of course, but you know, some players, you know, that I like seeing matchmaking. You know, on the EU side of things, there's players like Marcus and Infini who are pretty good. On the NA side of things, there's Mailman. You know, I
Yeah.
think he's been improving. I think he's getting pretty good. I think he's on the right track, and those are really the players I'd say.
It's cool. A lot of people talking a little bit of hate to Mr. Mailman in the MNK scene. They're like, he's cheating, or the MNK's broken, and things like that. I'm like, what are your thoughts on that? Of people saying, and it doesn't have to be pros or anybody, but a lot of people say, MNK is broken. They shouldn't have any aim assist. Is there anything that you have to say to them specifically, and what do you think about that?
I mean, I'll be honest, I kind of just tune them out. I don't really listen to that because, you know, there's people who say MNK doesn't belong in Halo or whatever, and I just don't think that's true at all, you know, at least not nowadays. I think both inputs are viable now. That's just how it is now.
I feel like bringing in the MNK brings in the a different play style, right? We have a lot of people have different play styles. Royal 2 holds positions. I mean, he's really good in every position, but I mean, Legend's fast in their own way, in his own way, and then you have Lucid playing his own way style. Everybody, and then you have your own play style. And I think they're more afraid of what potentially your play style could bring to the table when more of them jump in. So I think they're just afraid of the unknown as opposed to hating the MNK. I just think that they know that potentially you could be the next up, at least in my opinion. So, what do you think about that? Do you think that more people in the MNK field should try to strive for it to push that limit, just block out the noise, don't worry about the haters, and just try to keep on improving?
Yeah, of course, because I think, you know, doesn't matter what the control players think, you know, it's just, that's just how Halo is now, is that, you know, if you want to play MNK, you can.
In the pros and cons aspect of it, is there a pro to being MNK and then a con to being MNK? And I could probably guess a few, but I want to hear your thoughts on that.
You'll hear MNK players talking about this quite often. It's just close range battles versus control players, you know. Control players generally have the advantage in those. I think controller is just a bit more consistent, especially close range. But, you know, when it comes to advantages, you know, of course, we can turn as fast as we want, you know, because we're not limited by our sensitivity. That brings in, you know, a lot of the things you can do. You know, like if you get shot in the back, you can, 180 faster than a control player can, and you can, do some damage or even win that fight potentially.
Snaps on right here. This snap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as Sims would say, and Wutum makes them feel the wrath of a mouse and keyboard player. That flick was nasty, and you cannot do that on controller, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, I've seen you snipe before. I think you played against Summit in like a little 1v1, and he shot you in the back coming up cuts on live fire, and then you just do a 180 instantaneous headshot. I mean, that's probably indicative of just how powerful the MNK could be when you have a power weapon.
I mean, when it comes to power weapons, I would say that the sniper is like really good on MNK, but then the shock rifle, I think for sure is worse on MNK than it is on controller. And when it comes to like the movement, I would say like with the repulse, again, because you can turn faster, you know, you can hit a curve slide and just do a 180 repulse and you get a lot of speed, you know, you can go flying across the map like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, and I think a lot of people just wonder, I mean, like I was saying, a lot of MNK players don't know what the limits are. Would you say that there's potentially a higher skill ceiling in MNK versus controller, in your opinion?
I think that's true. Yeah, MNK probably has a higher skill ceiling than controller, yeah.
I think that'll be good for long-term thought processes for people playing on MK, right? So if they get good enough to get into the semi-pro pro levels, we might see, and then even yourself, we might see you go through evolution through this, off season into the next year. How much better you get. I mean, we've only seen a glimpse of what you're able to do, and I think with more time, we're going to be able to see that, and it's going to be awesome. My next question, in general, like with the success that you're having now, and Splitgate as basically your championship game that you were playing consistently, winning all the time. How did that overall shape you, and what skills did you carry over from Halo and being a champion that you think are affecting you now in a positive manner?
A big thing I learned in Splitgate that for sure I carried over to Halo is just communication. That's a big thing. Like I think I got really good at it in Splitgate and carried over into Halo, and is something I think I'm improving still to this day. And that's definitely a big positive, I would say.
What would you say about the communication aspect that was like, man, this is the main thing that maybe the best thing that I got from Splitgate, like, was calming with my teammates, because I think Splitgate has more to do on the map. It's almost like everybody has a quantum transport or something,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it probably requires like high level communication. Is there anything different from maybe the communication you've got in Halo versus Splitgate? Like, was it a higher skill ceiling of communication in Splitgate that you brought to Halo now, and you feel like you benefited your teams and in any way?
Yeah, I would say that because Splitgate is like a faster paced game, it means that you had to be more efficient with your communication, because essentially in Splitgate, information that you call out, it gets outdated faster than it does in Halo, because, you might call out someone's C, but they can just teleport instantly to A, so that information can, change super fast in Splitgate. But I also think that, helps in Halo, because, that just makes sure that I'm always, just being really efficient and really fast with my comms.
And that's actually really interesting. Never thought about that. The instantaneous aspect of it. Do you, in Splitgate, whenever somebody, I suppose, like you said, somebody's at C and they teleport to A, for example, is there something that you say differently, not just in Splitgate, but now in Halo, that benefits your teammates more? Like, maybe instead of just saying, "Hey, they're at C," it's like, "Hey, they're C going big door," or "Hey," or sorry, B going big door or something. Or is there anything that maybe you add to it that some people don't, because you've had experience in a different game that's faster paced?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like you said, A to big door, for example, like making sure that you are, updating that information. If somebody's, you know, somewhere, but I see them that they're starting to go another way, then I'll, call out where they're gonna go, right, and where they are.
Somebody could call out, "They're at C," and then you're like, "Oh, they're at C," and then they end up being like somewhere completely different. Like if you say C plat, and then they end up top tower, but you just called it out, but you called it out late, and you never called out where they were going. And somebody's looking C plat, is like, "Where he's at," and he just gets back back or something. I think those things are important. I think a lot of people will learn a lot from that, actually, as a tip. So thank you for that. Have you ever thought about maybe coming to the US? I know it's like a hypothetical. Worst case scenario, they have no teams in the EU or something like that.
As you were saying, it just kind of depends on the circumstances, of course. But I do think that, what Legend did, going to space station and, winning worlds is super inspiring. I think what he's been doing, being a European player and moving to NA and, achieving these things is really cool to see.
That whole timeline for him, do you see yourself, like, potentially, I know you said it's inspiring, but could you see yourself doing that in the future? Like, man, like, this is possible, so why not maybe try it, kind of thing?
Ends up going that way, then yeah, it's definitely it would be awesome.
I know you're playing next year. Are you determining if they have another game pretty soon in the next couple of years, have it maybe 3, 4, 5 years? Would you venture back into Halo, or would you maybe go back to Splitgate if it comes in?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard question, but for now, I'll say is that definitely I'm sticking with Halo for now. But, of course, it's one of those things where I kind of just have to wait and see where Halo and HGS end up going, and also where Splitgate 2 ends up, because that's releasing in 2025, but, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to have like esports on launch or, whatever. So, it's one of those things where you wait and see, but definitely sticking with Halo for now.
Right, right. And I mean, becoming more dominant MNK, you might just be the, top of the line player anyway. So we'll see with that when it comes in line with that. And another question I had is, would you ever and have you ever dabbled with controller to kind of see how that feels? And maybe not necessarily like it more, but maybe understand it more and be like, okay, this is the limitations of these kind of players.
No, actually, I haven't. I've never really tried controller. I don't even own one, so I can't even try.
Fair enough. You're like, I'm not gonna
I
buy
had to
one.
go out of my way to buy one.
You're
But
like,
yeah,
I'm
no,
good.
I
I'm good.
haven't tried. Yeah.
That's what okay, no problem. I mean, so stick it to MNK strong. We love that.
Yeah.
So my questions with final questions about gaming in general, the EU versus the US scene. How has that affected your gameplay? I know for scrimming, we've talked to Sika before, and he said like scrimming was almost nearly impossible with any other team except for the top two teams. Do you feel like that affected y'all going into Worlds, and what did y'all do to prepare for it? And really every other event.
I know, like, I'm not trying to say this to put down like the, like other EU teams, but essentially like the top two EU teams are just, far above, like top three and below that, it's hard to get good practice when we stream someone apart from, last year being quadrant. We still did because, it's still good to get those reps in, but it's definitely not the same type of practice as it is versus, quadrant. We were fortunate enough to have a boot camp, so we would go for before Atlanta and before Worlds, we actually had a boot camp, so that was really helpful because then we got to play those top tier NA teams and really practice super well, so that was helpful.
I'm guessing the EU ping is roughly the same as the US if you're playing US players, so like 20 to 40 roughly. Is that kind of consistent in the EU as well? The servers being, what are your pings at? It's kind of the question.
I'm in Finland, which is kind of further away. It's up north in the east of Europe. Like my ping's a little bit higher than most people. I play on like 40 usually, around 40. But it's not horrible,
Gotcha. And I've had you in some of my games in the US. And I don't think I had the ping. Do you happen to use a VPN to get maybe the US servers a little bit to maybe play against players in the US when you do matchmaking?
I don't usually use a VPN. I'll just ask a friend from America if they want to queue, and that way I just get NA games. And usually when I play NA games, if it's an East server, it's like 110 ping.
Right.
If it starts being like West servers, then it kind of gets really hard when it's like 150 plus. But yeah.
Do you see different playstyles from EU to America? Like even at the same level, like let's say a 1500 American versus a 1500 European player.
I mean, yeah, I would say so. I think actually, I've noticed is that in Europe, nobody ever comms, but in when I play NA servers, there's occasionally people who come, but that's never the case in Europe. So that's a difference I've noticed.
And I'm guessing it's limited. It limits your play, right? Playability. You got to play off of what's happening on the map as opposed to information, right? That somebody can give you directly.
The thing is, like, I'm not gonna complain if people don't come because I myself don't come. So it'd be dumb for me to complain about it. But definitely nice when people do have good comms. But obviously, there's also times when maybe the comms are more on the side of complaining. It's kind of annoying, But yeah, it's when people have good comms, I do appreciate it for sure.
When it comes to learning how to be a better player, would you rank communication pretty high up there? I know a lot of people just play the game and they play matchmaking. Let me just shoot people, and I'll get better. Maybe look at spawns and do that. Is there a skill gap even in the communication aspect? I'm guessing there is, but what do you think?
If you're gonna make it, as a really good team, like you need to have good communication because that's gonna directly affect your teamwork, and teamwork's gonna end up being the most important thing usually in those really high level games.
I'm going in play. I'm coming. In A now, weak shot to fight. Red one shot, red to A, one shot.
Men, you did.
One more, big.
I love that listen, and I love that play from WUTUM right there.
Would you say that playing 8s versus matchmaking versus obviously scrims are the highest level outside of competition? Do you think there's different things you can learn from each level? So again, it's matchmaking, 8s, and then scrims?
So, starting with matchmaking, I think matchmaking is really the place where you just are mainly going to be, you're going to be focusing on yourself and, things you can control. Grinding, reps and just mechanics, because I do think it's still really important. Just play matchmaking to get those reps in and, become a bit more consistent. I think it's just really helpful especially if you're starting out, just getting better mechanics, just, because I still think that playing the game is always going to be better than like shooting bots. So matchmaking is really important in that aspect still, I would say. It's definitely, a tier above matchmaking where you can actually start working on your communication, but it's not going to be the same as scrimming, obviously. It's going to be different because, it's going to be different players every time, and you're going to have different ideas and things like that. So you might not necessarily always be on the same page in eights, but then once you start scrimming, you have a team you played with for a while. You start to be on the same page, you start to have strategies, and you're going to notice that, communication is going to start flowing a lot more smoothly and things like that.
Right. Well, how would somebody get better at, let's say they play scrims and what do y'all all do to get better as a team? And then if you play eights, what do you do better individually to maybe get better as an individual? And what do you learn from, let's say you lose matchmaking games, you lose scrims, you lose eights. What do you do individually as a player to get better in those scenarios?
It ends up, depending on the scenario, it's, I don't know, you kind of got to like figure out what do you think you're doing wrong? And then you kind of have to go through a process of figuring out how to fix it. But, the first step is to figure out what's wrong in the first place. That's, what is causing you to lose these games or lose these gunfights or whatever. And once you figure it out, you can, try and implement the fix. You can, go into theater and see what you could have done differently in this scenario and, try and improve.
And would you say with like scrims, for example, with Into the Breach that you play for, like with Wonderboy and whatnot, do you feel like having that fifth man in your ear, like when y'all do VOD reviews, how did he affect the team and how did he make you a better player?
Yeah, I mean, having a great coach like Wonderboy is definitely very helpful, especially when I was, first like coming into that higher tier play, really just, helping me get up to speed on these things, For Foe, I didn't really have that experience at like high tier, like pro level Halo. So definitely helpful when you have a coach like that who, brings you up to speed and, teaches the meta in a way essentially to you. So, because, I was talented individually, but, still, of course, there was things I had to learn in terms of the meta and like teamwork and things like that. So, yeah.
Do you feel like everybody should have some form of coach or something like that to maybe take them to the next level?
For sure, I think it can be helpful, but also what you can do is also just going to theater and just watch gameplay of pro players and try and see what they do. Just that can be really helpful as well. You don't necessarily, if you don't want to, you might not need a coach. You can just try and figure it out yourself. Kind of just depends on the person you are. Maybe for some people, they find that just playing themselves and doing theater themselves is the way to go primarily. But of course, it can be really helpful to just have like a second opinion, from someone else, and someone to tell you what what they think you're doing wrong, and then you can have a conversation, a constructive conversation, and come to an agreement on what the right play should have been, essentially.
Is there ever been an experience that you've had with a coach or a player that like maybe blew your mind out of the water, or you're like, oh my God, I just realized I'm doing all this wrong, or like, man, this was so insightful. I learned so much from this. Was there one time that you remember in general? You could say no, and we could delete it later. So what do you think?
I would say in that aspect, actually, one of my teammates in Splitgate, I think K. Jules, I think some of the advice when we teamed on Space Station, like he was in one of the best teams at the time, and he kind of made this crazy move to like joined my team, being a mentor in a way and telling me a lot of things. You know, I carry it to this day. I think he gave me some really good advice back in Splitgate, and I think it's been helping me to this day in Halo.
Is there anything in Splitgate that you want us to watch maybe later and be like, man, this is WUTUM at his prime? Is there one time that you remember specifically you think we could check out?
Yeah, you can. It's the summer season finals. That was a tournament we won. It was like 60K prize pool, if I remember correctly.
100%. We'll add that into probably the post-production stuff, so people go, man, this is some crazy shit. Because I think people don't realize how crazy Splitgate looks until you look at it like for a little bit longer than a minute, you know, and you're like, golly, this is insane.
Is getting larger and the time is getting lower, meaning XSET is running out of opportunities to bring themselves back into the fold and into a position where they can take this in overtime. This will be the hill as well, is going to be the big problem for XSET. It's such an open territory. You can already see Chenzo has picked off one of the two members of XSET that's currently holding on to it. If they can bleed Mason off, that's it. That's the game. But at the same time, XSET bringing it back. They managed to take down Wutum K-Jules, trying to snipe out Maddie from a distance, but the shots aren't connecting. He gets beaten by Maddie. It's only another 13 seconds that they need, and they'll win this out and send us to a map 5. Is this going to happen? Oh no, it'll get denied at the last second. SSG swarm the hill, knock out XSET, and lock in the championship for the summer season.
What are the most memorable moments with fans that you've had that maybe they asked you to sign their keyboard out of nowhere? Did somebody scream, I love WUTUM, like from their car window or something when they saw you? Is there anything specific that you remember?
Arlington, when the crowd was chanting my name after that Cloud9 series, they were chanting my name. That was super awesome. And
WUTUM showing off the keyboard to the crowd and saying,
of course, anytime, you know, somebody asks for a picture or asks me to sign something, I think it's really awesome. You know, bonus points if it's a keyboard they're asking me to sign. So yeah, that's always awesome.
For sure. So you don't mind people coming up to you, maybe saying hello at the events and whatnot?
Not at all. Like, I appreciate it. It's awesome if you're, you know, going out of your way to see me, say what's up. I think it's cool.
Outside of like competition, the games that you played, of course, some people come in so locked in, they're not even thinking about the fun that they're having at the events. Is there any team bonding moments that you had here in the US or even in the EU for the London tournament that you have and have grown fond of in Halo and even Splitgate too?
I wouldn't say any like super specific moments coming to mind, but of course, you know, it's always really awesome to, you know, to see the team and, you know, go out for a team dinner together or something like that. You know, it's always awesome.
But when y'all got top 6, that dinner was real tasty, right?
Oh yeah, it was after top 6. You know, it was Arlington, like that's just a unforgettable event for sure, you know.
Love that. Were you just filled with exhilaration? Like, what was your thought? Like, could you?
Yeah, because it was also it was crazy because I remember, you know, after the top 6, I go back into my hotel room and, you know, I check my phone and my fucking Twitter is just blowing up. Like, I think I got like 1,000 followers in like one weekend, like that weekend. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. Congratulations on that. I mean, I was one of them probably. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's the GOAT. For the M&K community, what would you like to say to them? Is there, because they all look up to you. I mean, and they're, again, people pushing back on them like we've said before. There's challenges in the M&K versus the controller realm, be it socially and literally in the game. Is there any message that you have for them in general, the M&K community?
Keep grinding and don't listen to the people who say that M&K doesn't belong in Halo, because that's not true. And, you know, just keep grinding, doing your thing, and just thank you as well to all the people who support me.
It's awesome, man. Well, we appreciate having you. It was a wonderful time. Thank you for the time. I know the M&K community, the Halo community, the EU community loves you at the highest nth degree. If you don't already have him on Twitch, make sure to follow him on Twitch. I think it's just straight up WUTUM, right? WUTUM.
Yeah.
Just straight up WUTUM. And then, of course, same thing on Twitter. WUTUM, is it anything specific on
WUTUM SG on Twitter.
Make sure to give him a follow on both of those platforms. Subscribe to him if you want to learn the M&K magic that he has. Let's see him in next year, ladies and gentlemen. Take it to the next level. We're going to bring in his mother now as a little bonus. I think it's going to be really cool to have everybody say hello to Momma, because she supports you to the nth degree, WUTUM, and I think a lot of people love that.
Shout out to my mom, because she's been really supportive, you know, whole duration of my career, going all the way back to Splitgate and even like when we first started in Blackpool when it was on Bittersweet. So yeah. Shout out to my mom.
You know, it's a lot of pressure for a young guy. Obviously, the youngest player in the league now in WUTUM, so we'll see how he handles that.
I love that you talk about how young he is and the fact that he's the youngest player in the HCS. Can I give a shout out to Momma WUTUM? Because when you're young, you're trying to fight for some screen time. You gotta, you don't want to pass curfew. You got some homework to do. But Momma WUTUM not only watches every single match, she hypes him up. She's on the Twitter. She watches all of it. So I will say, I love the fact that Momma WUTUM supports the young star in the making, because I think that's important to a young player's development.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest today. It is Miss Tua, Miss WUTUM, WUTUM's mother here today, bringing us some insight on it, how it is to be an esports mom, a very supportive figure in the community. People love you. I mean, we've had tweets seen from you that have been deleted. We won't bring them up, but they were so great that people just spread them like wildfire in the community, and they just love the support and the constant admiration for your son that you show is a shining light in the community that we all love.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for taking the time too. And we have a couple of questions for you, right? We're not going to go all in. We don't need to necessarily ask you if you play controller or mouse and keyboard yourself.
At the time, I don't play anything. I have played Sims and Tropico.
Oh yeah.
But that's all.
That's all right. That's very cool. I bet it's different knowing that your son WUTUM, right, has gone from Splitgate to this game. And how old is he? Is he like?
He's 18 now.
Yeah, that's insane. He's 18 years old.
Yes.
And, wow. My question for you is, he's been doing this for how long? Since he was 15?
Yes, he was 15 when he started with Space Station and Splitgate.
How was that when you first he came into the scene and he was like, "Mom, I'm actually really good at this video game. Like, I'm extremely good. Like, they want to hire me." What were your thoughts on that?
I remember the day when he came with that about 44 pages contract and was starting his career with Space Station. And I have to read it and sign because he was underage.
I bet he was so excited to have you even be on board with it. Were you kind of reluctant when you first started? You're like, "What is this? Is this kind of crazy?"
I was so excited and thrilled. And of course, it came from bushes because I couldn't even imagine something like that could happen. But here we are.
Here we are. Amen. He seems really mature. I mean, he's only 18 now. He seems like he's 23 or something.
Yes, he's very down to earth.
Yeah, you can tell he seems very down to earth, not jaded whatsoever. So we could tell that you're a good mama. So were there any moments in his career, starting from the beginning? Of course, the signing of his first team was amazing. That stand out to you though?
I cried after Arlington when he was on stage with Blaze. That was so overwhelming and huge thing. I'm almost crying now. When I remember that, that was so huge and remarkable.
I bet. I can't imagine. Even for us at home, we were watching, and I was exhilarated more than seeing the Optic win, or SSG win, because it was so unknown, and this guy coming out of nowhere, WUTUM coming from a different game, and then you're tweeting a little bit too, so hyping him up a little bit, and then he's MK, never been seen before, and doing so much in the Halo landscape. I mean, I can't imagine how much emotion was in that. So we could tell it was a very big moment for everybody in the community. So
I've heard and seen that. It's amazing.
How has the family aspect impacted your life? Has it changed anything specifically?
Not really so much. We are even more close now, and went to London with me and my boyfriend, his dad, grandma, aunt, cousin, big brother, and friend. We have been so excited to be in this journey with him.
So for you as a mother, what do you think drove your son to compete and keep improving? Is it his personality? Is there something that you see in him that he was so focused that got him to this level?
He's literally born with computer games because he has 2 older brothers and he has played always, and he has been very competitive always, and it has been very hard for him to lose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's always wanting to be better. He's very diligent when he decides something.
That's awesome. I mean, he got some good character traits from, I'm guessing, Momma Wutum.
Thanks. I hope so.
What are you most proud of about him, both as a person and as a player?
I think he is very kind and loyal, but also he can defend himself if needed. I think those are characters, both human and player, which are good in him.
If you could give one piece of advice or encouragement for him in his future in esports and career, is there anything specific that you have for him?
I would say that stay who you are and remember that we are always with you and you will have it all. I love him and I will always support him. And now I'm starting to cry. I'm so proud of him.
We love that. Thank you so much, Tua, for taking the time. Everybody's going to enjoy this, and we loved having you. And we love having your son in the community. I feel like the entirety of Halo got a new shining light in it, and we're also proud of him too. And we do love him and his gameplay and what he represents. I think people are going to realize the personality of Wutum is just as much of a champion as he is in the game as well.
Yes, and thank you for the whole community. I love it.
If you ever need anything, we're here for you. I'm sure everybody will be happy to see you when you come to a LAN in the US, and we're excited. We're excited for next year.
Yes, we too.